All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to start by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elected nation of Israel. This is Ratazah from the Great Millstone GMS Atlantic Camp with another lesson. All right, and this lesson is going to be centered around Daniel's chapter 7. All right, Daniel's the 7th chapter. And I just want to really, through the Spirit, hone in on the 5th verse dealing with the bear. All right, I just want to bring out a couple of points and some history that I have, which I think would be edifying. All right, and we know that those of us who are in the truth should know that Daniel chapter 7 is dealing with the prophecy concerning the four major kingdoms that would arise. Okay, which in this prophecy or in this vision they're likened unto beast. But when you read down, it's revealed that these actually talking about kingdoms. Okay, and I'm gonna actually just read from the top, and I'm gonna read into verse 5, and potentially I might just read through a little bit more. But I want to just hone in on the 5th verse dealing with the bear. All right. Now this is Daniel 7 verse 1. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. And it says, Daniel spake and said, I saw my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And it says, four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. All right. So as I stated, when you read on, you're gonna learn that these beasts is talking about actual kingdoms that will rise up in the earth. All right. So verse 4, it says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. So this is going into the Assyrian uh, king, kingdom, or the Assyrian captivity leading to Babylon. All right, the wings being plucked represent the Babylonians basically taking over the Assyrians. All right, so this lion with eagle's wings represent the Assyrians, and then the wings being plucked represents basically them being taken out of power or being uprooted by the Babylonians. Okay, because the Babylonians, they ruled next after the Assyrians. And it says, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. All right, which is going into the Nebuchadnezzar, and basically how Babylon was wise. All right, the king, it was a wise kingdom. All right. So verse 5 is the point. It says, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in its mouth, in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. So this bear, or this second beast, is going into the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. Now, why is it known as the Medo-Persian Empire? Because it was a joint rulership, which I believe Persia eventually conquered Media, and Media basically became a part of the kingdom. But the Persians were mightier than the Medes. All right, which Persia would be Elam. All right, and then the Medes or Media, I believe, was Japheth. All right, so there was a joint. It was a joint kingdom. So when it says it was raised up on one side, that's going into basically how the Persians were stronger. All right, or they were mightier than the Medes. All right, now here's the main point I want to hone in on, where it says, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. All right, so when you go into the three ribs in the mouth of the bear, that's dealing with Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. All right, that represents three ribs: the mouth and teeth All right, majority of the time in the scriptures represents what? War, represents a particular kingdom's military might. Basically Persia, or the Middle Persian Empire, it basically had to take down these three places in order for it to uh, basically rule. And I got some history here that I just want to read off to you all out there. All right, see, I got 2 pages pulled up. The first one I'm going to read is from a website called CyrusTheGreat.net. All right. You see there, Cyrus the Great. They got the maps and all of that. Now, when you jump down to the introduction, I'm going to just read a little bit of this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read kind of fast. It's a couple sentences. It says, the ancient Middle East was home to one of the greatest and strongest warring factions in all of history. The sands were stained red with blood of all who had died in her deserts. It says the 60 years before 500 BC experienced some of the most well-known rebellions in history, where fathers fought fathers and where brothers fought brothers. The rebellion of Persia in 550 BC, led by Cyrus II, later called Cyrus the Great, conquered much of the known world. All right, just going into that bear that we just read about. And it says the king created an empire that stretched from the border deserts of Egypt to the mountains of Asia Minor, all the way to the lush rainforests of India. It says in total, the new empire covered 2 million square miles and was the largest nation up to its time. All right, so these kingdoms, they, as you go down the timeline, the kingdoms were increased in size and in radius. All right, it says Cyrus the Great was called a man of peace, a man of human rights, and a man that carved one of the greatest empires in history. It says the Achaemenid Persian Empire. This is before Persia's reign as the ultimate and supreme superpower. All right, here's the point. There were 4 nations which covered Asia, Middle East. These nations were Egypt, Lydia, Babylon, and Media. All right. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can highlight it. See that? It says these nations were Egypt, Lydia, Babylon, and Media. All right. So the 3 ribs that was in his mouth is talking about Egypt, Lydia, and Babylon, because Media became a part of the Persian Empire. So that's why it's called the Middle Persian. And it was like, again, the bear was raised on one side because the Persians were mightier. All right, so there you go right there. So I read that part again. This is before Persia's reign as the ultimate and supreme superpower. There were 4 nations which covered Asia, and they got the Middle East. These nations were Egypt, Lydia, Babylon, and Media. All right, so those were the nations that were running at that time that had to be conquered. All right. And that's pretty much the point on that. There's more history. They pretty much go into it. But let's go to the next post. This is from a website called courses.lumenlearning.com. And this is under the Persian Empire. All right, the Achaemenid Empire. It says under Cyrus the Great and Darius the Great, the Achaemenid Empire became the first global empire. This is a cut to people that say the Bible is a fairy tale book, because these are actual historical individuals, and these are historical events that went place. These are actual wars that happened, and the Bible goes into it, man. All right, now when you go down to the key takeaways. All right, it says I'll start here, which says key terms. Cyrus the Great. Cyrus II of Persia, also known as Cyrus the Great, created the largest empire the world has seen. Darius the Great, the 3rd king of the Persian Achaemenid Empire, who ruled at its peak from 522 to 486 BCE. All right, now here's the point. Median Empire, one of the 4 major powers of the ancient Near East, with Babylonia, Lydia, and Egypt. See that? Until it was conquered by Cyrus the Great in 550 BCE. So that links right up with the last post that we read. All right. One of the four major powers of the ancient Near East, with Babylonia, which is Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. Okay, and it was conquered by Cyrus the Great, which is Cyrus the Second. You see, so the history lines up, man. So that's what this is talking about the bear with the ribs in his mouth. You see, but yet they say the Bible is fairy tale and these different character so-called characters and people in the Bible are made up. That's a goddamn lie, man. All right. This is prophecy, and this was written before it happened. All right, Daniel had this dream and wrote it down before it took place. So this is prophecy, man. All right, so that was the point, and I'll actually just keep going just to finish it off. Verse 6. It says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard." But this is dealing with the Greeks, the Greek Empire, all right, which the Greeks took down the Medo-Persians. It says, "Which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it." All right, the 4 heads going into the four of Alexander the Great's generals. All right, 7. It says, "After this I saw in the night visions, behold, a 4th beast, okay, which is going into the Roman Empire, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth." All right, going into again the military. When you have the scriptures give the metaphor of beast, and it mentions the teeth. All right, that's symbolic of their military might. And it says it devoured and break in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the other beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Why was Rome diverse? It's because it had a senate. All right, and they didn't have necessarily a king. They had Caesars, which they were voted in as opposed to prior, where you had to basically if you wanted to be the king, all right, you had to be the prince. You had to be like a blood relative or the son of the king. But with Rome, the Caesars, they weren't technically related. Now they were Edomites, especially dealing with that first 12. From Julius Caesar, all right, to Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, and eventually Jake got up in there. But it was Edomites, but they technically wasn't, his son and then his son and then his son. It was just, random, so to speak. They would have to be voted in by that Senate, man. Okay, it tells you that, and I believe that's what First Maccabees, the 8th chapter. So that's pretty much it, man. That's dealing with the 4 beasts. But I just wanted to really hit, a tad bit of history dealing with the 5th verse. Because if you never went through it, you might not know what that's talking about as far as the 3 ribs in the mouth of the bear. Okay, so basically the Medo-Persians, they had to take down Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. So that's pinpoint accurate history. And as a matter of fact, let me get one more thing that I looked up with this guy David Guzik. All right, this is a Bible scholar. Let's see. When you go to this verse, all right, he says the same thing. Text commentaries. All right, David Guzik. All right, and this was the guy that brothers had their videos on. The apostles, elders, did videos where he was addressing a question on his YouTube page when somebody asked him about Edom and Esau. And he read Isaiah 63. All right, basically showing you that the Edomites are still here. But this is what he had to say about Daniel 7 and 5. All right, let's jump down. Let's get right to the point. Right. So this is what he has here. He says, okay, starting where it says it says the bear represented the Medo-Persian Empire, succeeding the Babylonian Empire. In this partnership between the Medes and the Persians, the Persians dominated the relationship. Okay, which was why the bear was raised on one side in Daniel's dream. It says most think the three ribs represent their three great military conquests: Babylon, Egypt, and Lydia. See that? So even, you know, there it goes again. All right, just to just to further confirm that. I'll read this last part. It says the slow crushing armies of the Middle Persian Empire were well known. They simply overwhelmed their opponents with superior size and strength. The Medes and Persians are compared to a bear on account of their cruelty and thirst after blood, a bear being the most voracious and cruel animal. See that? So even when the Most High, use these different animal references and these visions and these prophecies is real particular and specific, man. Why the Lord would call the Greeks a leopard. Why he would call the Romans a dragon and all these different things. It's all specific, man. Likening them to those certain characteristics. But that was really the point. All right, I just wanted to hit that account real quick. All right, I'm gonna sign off, man. Lord willing, you was edified, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Wadash. Lord willing, to the next lesson. Shalom.